How do novel ideas form? For centuries, creativity remained a mystery, but modern neuroscience allows us to track the specific mechanics of original thought. Historically, psychologists assumed that creativity was a direct byproduct of high intelligence. In the 1970s, researcher Paul Torrance developed specialized metrics that challenged this link. This graph illustrates the threshold theory. A person's intelligence and creative capacity climb together up to an average threshold marker. Beyond that baseline, higher IQ offers no additional boost. While intelligence rises, creativity levels off. Intelligence is a necessary foundation, but insufficient on its own. Because raw cognitive power cannot explain creative genius, we must deconstruct the chronological sequence of neurological states that produce a new idea. Early attempts to isolate those states concentrated on identifying a creative personality. Researchers found that creative individuals tend to value aesthetic qualities and possess an attraction to complexity. Cultivating broad interests provides an internal repository of information. This gives the brain an extensive database of knowledge to draw upon and recombine into novel solutions. Yet clinical data consistently flagged a risk attached to this highly self-motivated, often obsessive profile, a centuries-old correlation with mental illness. Psychiatrist K. Redfield Jamison, evaluating data at Johns Hopkins University, found that established artists carry a significantly higher likelihood of experiencing mood disorders. Jamison's findings suggest dynamic shifts in mood states trigger creativity. This frames the creative process as an active, measurable neurological event. To understand that event, we begin at the intake valve. Every second, our senses feed a staggering volume of environmental data into the brain. To prevent overload, the brain operates a filtration system. Psychologist Jordan Peterson, mapping cognitive function at the University of Toronto, isolated the biological mechanism the brain uses to manage this sensory intake. Peterson focused on latent inhibition, the process responsible for blocking or ignoring excess environmental stimuli. Creative brains exhibit lower latent inhibition. As this model shows, when the latent inhibition funnel widens, an expanded volume of raw sensory data bypasses the filter. Paired with high working memory, the brain manages this data surplus, recombining the extra information into novel ideas. Peterson identified this structural difference in sensory processing as a core driver of creative potential. You cannot recombine ideas if you filter out the raw materials before they reach your conscious mind. This expanded intake of sensory data provides the foundation for creative thought. There is a severe downside to letting that much unstructured information into the cognitive pipeline. If latent inhibition drops too low, the pipeline floods. This results in a confused, chaotic thought style that predisposes an individual to mental illness. While these conditions share an open filter trait, Peterson argues that mental illness is not a prerequisite for creativity. Gathering raw data is only phase one. Without a structured neurological mechanism to process the surplus, an open filter leads to illness rather than insight. What physically happens inside the brain when it attempts to mold that chaotic data into a coherent narrative? In 1978, psychologist Colin Martindale conducted an EEG study. He used a network of scalp electrodes to record brainwave patterns as subjects invented original stories. During inspiration, the brain is quiet, dominated by slow alpha waves. This low cortical arousal allows the subconscious mind to freely make hidden connections. The second stage is elaboration. As subjects developed stories, alpha activity dropped off, deploying intensely organized thinking to corral the chaos. Psychologist Guy Claxton deduced from this data that uncreative individuals possess an inability to shift gears between these two distinct states. Martindale's findings showed that the subjects who produced the most creative storylines exhibited the largest measurable difference in brain activity between the inspiration and elaboration stages. This confirms that a hallmark of a creative brain is mental flexibility, the intuitive, rapid toggling between subconscious incubation and organized refinement. What physical region of the brain is driving that high-arousal, organized effort? Researcher Paul Howard Jones sought the specific location by utilizing fMRI scans to track participants as they constructed narratives under different constraint levels. In one trial, subjects reported the most obvious story suggested by a set of words. In another, they were forced into highly inventive storytelling by linking difficult, unrelated terms. As participants exerted conscious effort to be more creative, activity spiked in a particular prefrontal brain region on the right-hand side. This activation shows that creativity involves a deeply conscious, analytical process of evaluating and analyzing ideas. The internal cognitive model consists of an open sensory filter, an alpha wave incubation period, and finally, a strenuous prefrontal evaluation to test the concept. These internal gears require specific environmental conditions to remain sustainable. Functional, scientific, and workplace creativity often challenges the stereotype of the solitary, tortured artist. Teresa Amabile at Harvard Business School conducted a decade-long study analyzing creative output across real businesses. Her team discovered a simple, direct, linear relationship. In organizational environments, positive and buoyant moods correlate strongly with higher creative output. This relationship forms a circular feedback loop. Creative thought improves a person's mood, which subsequently fuels further creativity. While isolated emotional disturbances might trigger a single artistic event, sustained innovation in the real world is fueled by positive affective states. There is a final requirement for the creative pipeline, identified by Vera John Steiner of the University of New Mexico, the social aspect. John Steiner argues that internal neural networks are grounded by external social networks and trusting relationships. A characteristic of highly creative individuals is the presence of at least one person in their life who validates their ideas and provides a trusting environment for exploration. Creativity functions as a dynamic pipeline, beginning with open sensory filters, refined by rapid neurological toggling, and sustained by positive social reinforcement. If you are looking to apply that kind of mental flexibility to your language goals, check out today's sponsor, the IELTS FOCUS. Their resources and expert guidance provide the structured environment you need to turn your potential into an exceptional score.